A man walks alone through the streets of Turin. It is 1888 Kisisburn, not with fever, but with clarity. He carries on his shoulders the weight of having said aloud what everyone whispered in the shadows: God is dead, and we killed him. He does not celebrate. He weeps, because he knows that no one is ready for what comes next. Grab your whiskey so we can delve deeper into the subject. The man who destroyed God. Before we continue, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, perhaps it's time to do so. Not for me, but for you, because these conversations aren't going to stop, and you know you need them as much as I do. Nietzsche once said, God is dead, God remains dead, and we killed him. Now tell me, do you really think you still believe, or are you just pretending because the silence is too frightening? Let's start with the obvious. Nietzsche did not kill God. He simply had the courage to declare the death. It is the 19th century. Europe breathes the air of progress. Science, reason, the Enlightenment, all this gradually defeats medieval mysticism. Darwin explains the origin of species without needing Genesis. Newtonian physics transforms the cosmos into a predictable clock. And philosophy. Well, philosophy begins to realize that the sky is empty. But here's the problem. Nobody wants to admit it. The churches remain full. The rituals persist. People pray, baptize, marry, bury their dead under divine blessings. Everything works as it always has. Only now it's theater, performance, a mod-up corpse in a coffin, and everyone pretending it's still breathing. Nietzsche looked at this and thought, seriously, are we really going to pretend? He didn't destroy God for sadistic pleasure. He wasn't a militant atheist wanting to burn churches. Quite the opposite. Nietzsche saw the death of God as a cosmic tragedy, perhaps the greatest in human history. Because God was not just a religious entity, God was the foundation of everything. Morality, truth, meaning, purpose. God was humanity's existential GPS ends. Now what? The GPS is turned off and nobody knows where to go. Think about it for a moment. For millennia, the answer to why is there something rather than nothing was God the answer to why should I be good? Was God the answer to what happens after death? Was God. So imagine waking up one day and realizing that all those answers were stories, myths, human constructs to cope with the terror of the void. Is it liberating? Perhaps. But first, it's terrifying. Nietzsche knew this. That's why he doesn't celebrate the death of God, he laments it. He understands that humanity has lost its way. And worse, most people haven't realized it yet. They're navigating with a torn map, thinking they know the way. God is dead, he shouts. And the silence that follows is deafening, because nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to face it. It's easier to keep going to Mass on Sunday, posting motivational verses on Instagram, saying prayers before Badal while deep down you already know. You already know you don't believe anymore. But to admit that, that would require courage, and courage, my dear, is a rare thing. So what Nietzsche did was simple. He went to God's funeral and said aloud what everyone else was thinking in silence. He's dead. Stop pretending, and of course, like all good tragedies, nobody wanted to listen. Now, take a deep breath, because what comes next is where things get really uncomfortable. God is dead. Okay? So what? That is what. We're not just talking about religion. It's not about giving up going to church or stopping praying before meals. No. It's much deeper. Much more devastating. When Nietzsche says God is dead, he is saying all the absolute values that underpinned Western civilization have just evaporated. Think about it. For centuries, human morality rested on a simple premise: absolute good and absolute evil exist because God defined them is lying wrong. God said so. Is killing a sin? God said so. Is loving your neighbor commanded? God commanded it. Everything had a transcendent foundation, a cosmic anchor, a divine, because that ended any discussion. But if God is dead, who decides now? You, a way, society? What if society changes its mind, as it always does end what was right yesterday becomes wrong today? What was a mortal sin becomes a progressive virtue. Welcome to nihilism, my friend. Nihilism isn't just nothing matters in the adolescent and apathetic sense of the word. It's not just wearing black and listening to depressing music. Nihilism, in the Nietzschean sense, is the brutal awareness that there is no ultimate foundation for anything. There is no absolute truth, no cosmic purpose. No divine plan, just us insignificant creatures on a rock floating in space, inventing rules to avoid going insane. And here's the problem. Humanity hasn't processed this yet. Nietzsche uses a brilliant image. He says that we live in the shadow of God even after death. The corpse still casts a gigantic shadow over us. We continue to act as if he exists. We continue to use his moral language. We continue to seek his comfort. Look around you. How many people do you know who call themselves spiritual but not religious? Who don't believe in God but believe in energy, the universe, destiny? It's the shadow. How many militant atheists preach tolerance, equality, and social justice with the same moral fury as a 17th century Puritan? It's the shadow. How many replace God with science, the state, political ideology, self-help, rampant consumerism, as if these things could fill the void he left? It is the shadow. Nietzsche perceived this with razor-sharp clarity. Killing God is easy. Living without him is difficult, because living without God means living without ready-made answers, without guaranteed comfort, without a prefabricated meaning waiting for you at the end of the journey. It means looking into the abyss and realizing that it has no bottom. And what do most people do? They pretend the abyss doesn't exist. They build imaginary bridges. They invent new gods disguised as known. They replace the cross with other anchors: money, success, likes, productivity, external validation. Anything to avoid feeling the emptiness, anything to avoid facing the stark truth. You are alone. There is no one up there watching over you. There is no plan. There is no cosmic justice. There is no, everything happens for a reason. There is you and your choices and the brutal randomness of an indifferent universe. Scary. Of course, liberator, potentially, but first, you need to step out of the shadows. And here lies the tragedy. Stepping out of God's shadow is too terrifying for most. It's easier to continue living under a divan if it's just an illusion, even if it's just the ghost of something that no longer exists. Because shade still offers comfort. It still offers infrastructure. It still offers the comforting feeling that someone, somewhere, knows what they're doing. But Nietzsche does not accept this charade. He looks at humanity and shouts, "You killed God and now you pretend he's still alive. You are existential hypocrites." And us. We cover our ears. We change the subject. We post memes. We run to the next distraction. Because listening to Nietzsche means confronting the most terrifying question of all. And now, without God, who am I? Think about it. Have you ever felt crazy for noticing something that nobody else sees? Have you ever tried to explain an obvious truth, a glaringly obvious one, and been met with blank stares, nervous laughter, and awkward silence? So you understand Nietzsche's madman. Let's go to the scene. It's one of the most powerful passages he ever wrote, and it's in The Gay Science, paragraph 125. Imagine a bustling square, an ordinary morning. People buying, selling, chatting, living their mundane lives, and suddenly a man appears. He carries a lit lantern in broad daylight. Strange? Yes, but it gets worse. He starts shouting, "I seek God. I seek God." The people around laugh. They mock. Has God gotten lost? Someone taunts. Has he gone into hiding in other seas? Or has he emigrated? The man looks at them, and then he explodes. Where did God go? I'll tell you. We killed him, you and I. We are all his murderers. But how did we do that? How do you kill God? The madman continues, and his words are of a devastating poetic violence. Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? What did we do when we detached this earth from the current of its sun? Where is it moving now? Where are we moving? Far from all suns. Are we not continually falling, and backward, sideways, forward, in all directions? Is there still an above and a below, are we not wandering as if through an infinite nothingness? Do we not feel the breath of the void? Stop, breathe, feel the weight of this. Nietzsche is not doing academic philosophy here. He is describing cosmic vertigo, the feeling of having lost all direction, all compass, all existential gravity, because that is what the death of God means. It's not just I stopped believing, it's the ground disappeared from beneath my feet, and now I am in eternal freefall. And the madman shouts all this. He says that the act of killing God is too big for Ustad. In order to be worthy of him, we would have to become gods ourselves. He says, isn't the magnitude of this act too great for us? Must we not ourselves become gods just to appear worthy of it? And then silence. People stop laughing. They fall silent, uncomfortable, because deep down, very deep down, they know he's right. But admit it. Face it. Never. Then the madman does something brilliant. He throws the lantern on the ground, shattering it, and says, I arrived too early. My time has not yet come. This monstrous event is still on its way. It has not yet reached the ears of men. And here's the crucial point. Nietzsche knew it was too early. He knew he was shouting to people who hadn't yet woken up, who still lived comfortably in God's shadow, who still pretended to believe, who still went to church, baptized their children, and got married under divine blessings. He was the fool in the marketplace, the unwanted prophet, the man who saw the abyss before everyone else saw and was ridiculed for it. Do you know what that's like? Have you ever tried to talk about something profound, something real, something that cuts to the bone of existence, and been met with, dude, relax, you overthink it, or wow, that's heavy. Can we talk about something lighter or worse? Laughter, mockery, as if you were crazy for taking life so seriously. This is Nietzsche's solitude. That's the curse of those who see things too soon. Because seeing the abyss doesn't make you superior. It makes you isolated, different, ouchy av place. A stranger within his own species. And here's the brutal irony. The madman in the square wasn't wrong. He wasn't, because everything he shouted in 1882 about emptiness, about the loss of meaning, about nihilism, about the need to create new values has become the reality of the 20th and 21st centuries. 2 world wars, Holocaust, atomic bombs, genocides, totalitarian regimes, rampant consumerism, mass depression, anxiety, epidemic, widespread crises of meaning. Nietzsche saw all of this coming. He saw that without God, without absolute values, without transcendent purpose, humanity would enter into existential collapse. And they would either create new gods, totalitarian ideologies, cults of the state, political fanaticism, or fall into passive nihilism, empty hedonism, apathy, silent despair. And that's exactly what happened. The madman was right, but nobody wanted to listen. So he went where all inconvenient prophets go, to ostracism, to madness, to temporary oblivion till the world finally caught up with his horror. Now tell me, with brutal honesty, are you in the square laughing at the madman? Or are you the madman screaming in the desert? Because I can guarantee you one thing, we can't pretend everything is okay anymore. God is dead, and you know that. The question is, what are you going to do with this truth? So eerie are, to the point where most people give up because diagnosing the problem, God is dead, values you have crumbled, we are lost is one thing. And offering a way out is quite another. And Nietzsche, he doesn't give you a comfortable way out. He gives you one brutal challenge. Let's be clear, Nietzsche is not a nihilist. Not in the passive, defeatist sense of nothing matters, so I'll give up on everything. Quite the opposite. He hates passive nihilism. He sees this kind of resignation as the most pathetic form of existential cowardice. For him, nihilism is just a diagnosis phase, a symptom of the death of God. But it's not the final destination. The final destination, it depends on you. Because now, without God, without ready-made values, without pre-established meaning, you have 2 options. Option 1, become the last man. Option 2, become the Übermensch, the overman. Let's talk about the last man first, because let's be honest, that's what most people choose. The last man is the most pathetic creature Nietzsche could have imagined. He is the human being who has given up everything that is great, elevated, dangerous. He wants comfort, security, predictability, easy pleasure. He says, "We invented happiness," and winks with self-satisfaction he doesn't create. He doesn't take risks. He doesn't suffer. He doesn't fight. He just consumes. He gets distracted. He seeks small, safe pleasures. Netflix, delivery, likes, instant dopamine, eternal comfort, soal familiar. The last man doesn't want greatness. He wants comfort. He doesn't want the truth. He wants validation. He doesn't want to create values. He wants someone to tell him what he should think, feel, and desire. He is, in Nietzsche's words, a herd, a domesticated animal Tammy, harmless, mediocre, and the worst part. He's happy this way because comfortable mediocrity is tempting. It's safe. It doesn't require courage. It doesn't require pain. It doesn't require transformation. You can live an entire life as the last man and never feel the discomfort of questioning, creating, or daring. But you will also never feel and this is where the second option comes in, the Übermensch. Now, be careful. Don't confuse the Übermensch with a Nietzschean superhero. It's not about having superpowers or being genetically superior. That interpretation has been distorted, manipulated, hijacked by disgusting ideologies, and Nietzsche doesn't deserve that. The Übermensch is, in fact, existential metaphor. It is humanity that has had the courage to face the abyss, to accept that God is dead, to recognize that there is no ready-made meaning, and yet he decided to create what? Your own values, its own meaning, his own life as a work of art. The Übermensch doesn't wait for the world to tell him who he should be. He decides he sculpts his own existence with his own hands, even knowing that there is no guarantee, no salvation, no cosmic reward. He acts, he creates, he affirms, he says yes to life with all that is terrible, cruel, unjust, and absurd about it. This has a name, amor fati, love for destiny, love for what is, love for life in its entirety, including pain, loss, suffering, death. It's not resignation, it's a radical statement. That is to say, yes, life is hard. Yes, God is dead. Yes, there is no guaranteed meaning, and yet I choose to live life to the fullest. It's the difference between being crushed by the weight of existence and lifting that weight like a trophy. Nietzsche proposes something called a transvolution of values. In other words, since the old values died with God, it is up to us to create new values. Not inherited values. Not imposed values, but values created. Do you understand what this means? It means you can no longer outsource your morals. You can no longer say, I do this because God commanded me to, or because society expects it, or because it's always been this way. You have to decide for yourself, and that is terrifying. Because true freedom, Nietzschean freedom, isn't the rosy-colored freedom they sell in self-help books. It's not do what makes you happy. It's the freedom of a mountaineer at the top of the mountain. No handrails, new safety net, new guarantees in the majority. The majority don't want that. Most people prefer the comfort of the herd. They prefer someone to tell them what to do, what to think, what to value, because true freedom hurts. It demands total responsibility. It demands the courage to make mistakes. It demands bearing the weight of one's own choices without being able to blame God, fate, or society. Then Nietzsche asks you, his eyes fixed on yours. Do you want to be the last man or the bird? Do you prefer comfort or grandeur, security or creation, happy mediocrity or glorious risk? Don't answer now. Answer with your life, because the answer lies in how you act, in what you choose, in what you create, in what you affirm or deny each day. Nietzsche doesn't give you a recipe. He gives you a call to become who you truly are. Not who your parents wanted you to be. Not who society expects you to be. Not who God envisioned, but who you choose to be. And that, my friend, is at once the greatest freedom and the greatest terror that exists. Welcome to the abyss. Now, do you jump or retreat? Let's end this with brutal honesty. Because all this talk, God is dead, values Jav crumbled. We need to create our own meaning. Sounds beautiful in theory. But what about in practice in your life? In your day-to-day life, in the world you actually live in? Because this is where philosophy meets the asphalt. And often it explodes. Nietzsche died in 1900. Mad, alone, forgotten by most. But the 20th century proved him right. He proved it in a bloody, brutal, undeniable way. Think about it. What happened when God truly died? When Europe finally admitted, even if unconsciously, that there was no longer a transcendent foundation for anything? Nazism, a cult of race of blood, a brute force as a supreme value. Stalinism, a cult of the state, of ideology, of historical materialism as a secular religion. Consumerism, a cult of pleasure, of accumulating as a substitute for being. They are all trying to fill the void left by God. They all failed violently because replacing God with something else, be it race, ideology, money, power, doesn't solve the problem. It only disguises it. It only postpones the collapse. And here we are, the 21st century. God is more dead than ever. Churches are emptying. Institutional faith is crumbling. And what do we put in its place? Social media, where we seek instant validation. Likes as communion, followers as salvation. Toxic productivity, where work becomes identity and exhaustion becomes a virtue. Unbridled consumption, where we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't care about. Radicalized political ideologies, where left and right fight like religious sects, each convinced that it holds the absolute truth. Superficial self-help, where gratitude, positive energy, and manifestation have become cheap substitutes for transcendence. All of this is the shadow of God. We still live in the shadows. We haven't yet had the courage to leave them completely, because leaving means confronting the question Nietzsche shouted more than a century ago: if there is no cosmic purpose, who decides what is worthwhile? And the answer, the terrifying answer: there is no manual, there is no guru, there is no magic formula, there is no 3L podcast that will solve your existential crisis. There is only you and your choices and the brutal awareness that nobody's coming to save you. Neither God, nor the state, nor science, nor technology, nor the therapist, nor romantic love. You are alone, and that can be liberating. Because if you're alone, it means you're also free to create. Free to choose, free to make mistakes, free to start over. Nietzsche doesn't offer you comfort. He offers you possibility, the possibility of ceasing to be a victim of chance and becoming the author of one's own story. The possibility of stopping the search for ready-made meaning and starting to create meaning. The possibility of looking into the abyss and saying, yes, I see, and I will live anyway. But here's the problem. Most people don't want possibility. Most people want guarantee. You want security. You want certainty. You want someone to say, do this and it'll work out. And Nietzsche cannot give that because it would be a lie. Then he gives you the stark truth. God is dead. And now you must decide whether you will live as a corpse or as a creator. Are you going to spend your whole life looking for substitutes for God? Chasing after external validation? Waiting for someone to tell you who you should be? Or will you have the courage to create your own values? To live intensely? To say yes to life with all its chaos, pain, and absurdity? Because look around you. Do you see people who are truly alive? Or do you see comfortable zombies, repeating patterns, accumulating things, filling the void with endless distractions? Do you see people creating? or people consuming? Do you see courage or cowardice disguised as realism? And are you alive or just existing? Nietzsche provokes you. He pokes you. He disturbs you because he knows that the truth hurts. But he also knows that only the truth sets you free. And the truth is this: God is dead and you know it. Now stop pretending. Stop looking for substitutes. Stop seeking guarantees that don't exist. Accept the abyss. Look at him and then create your life as a work of art. Create values that make sense to you. Create meaning where there is none. Not because someone told you to, not because it will save you, not because there's a reward, but why you can. And this ability, this terrifying freedom to create from nothing, is the only thing that remained after the death of God. Use it or lose it. The choice, as always, is yours. And you already know what choice Nietzsche would make. So, what's yours? God is dead. But you don't have to be. The question has never been whether God exists or not. The question has always been, what do you do with the freedom you have left? So answer me not with words, but with actions. Will you live as the last man, or die as the empty whiskey bottle? Fill your glass. The next abyss awaits you. Subscribe to the channel.